Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video we're going to be talking a little bit about builds. So right now, I have farmed up on my currency and I'm in a bit of a unique position because I'm not really sure what build I want to play. Generally I have a pretty good idea of what build I want to play by now, but it's actually kind of difficult to come up with one which ticks all the boxes due to the fact that Ultimatum is a fairly unique mechanic. It's almost like I'm designing a hardcore character but for softcore, which is really weird, and I've never had to do anything like this, but it is what it is. So in the past, you've just had to scale massive damage and AoE and stuff like that, and just blast Delirium, and that was good enough. You could go all in on one playstyle, and Assassin was the king for that. And Assassin may still very well be the king, but we'll see how that goes. So let's talk a little bit about what I'm talking about here. So in general, Ultimatum is pretty challenging mechanic. You can put a headhunter in and all that stuff like that, and it's going to make it a lot easier, but you really do not want to die. Dying makes it so you lose all of your rewards, which sucks, and if you're doing inscribed ultimatums and you're doing, for example, like 8 Exalt Gamble, and you die, that is bad news. Obviously you don't want to lose all of your money, and there's a lot of money to be made by doing inscribed ultimatums if you are confident. In doing like mods and all sorts of stuff like that. So having a powerful character that is able to do all content is absolutely very good. Having said that though, making that character and designing it is challenging to say the least. So if you were just going to design a character for the the map ultimatums, I feel like you could go glass cannon and it would work 95% of the time. You might get one shot here and there, but if you scaled with Blast Freeze and Headhunter and Stormbrand and stuff like that, I think you would be fine. Now, I don't think that you can go with 95% success rate though on some of the inscribed ultimatums, because the 5% you lose is going to basically eat all your profit of the rest of the ultimatums you did. So you can't really afford to fail any, and if you're doing stuff like the mirror one, you absolutely cannot afford to fail any. So what kind of a build could do this? I'm not really sure, but we're going to talk about some ideas in this video. Hopefully you guys enjoy a little bit of discussion, and I'm going to kind of go over my thoughts and where I'm at this point in time. So I think that the build needs to have big effective health, and what I mean by effective health is it can take a hit. It can take a fizz hit, a chaos hit, all of the hits. It needs to be able to not die. So there's a few ways to do this. You can go endurance charges. You can go fortify, which is a really good mechanic. You can go elemental conversion with max res, and then also divine flesh. That's a very powerful one. But all of these are not really ever found in clear speed builds. And the reason for that is they take a lot of investment, and then you also sacrifice damage and clear to pick these up, which makes it really difficult because I want to have a build with everything, but that is really hard. So let's talk a little bit about what kind of builds would use these things. So Fortify in general is going to be the champion's domain. The champion is an incredible powerful ascendancy, and you can go with the champion down here. He gets stuff like Fortify effect and also Impale and stuff like that. Impale is very strong, and you can make champions very tanky, but the quality of life and the clear of a champion is an absolute disaster in my opinion. It doesn't have anything like explode scaling, and you have to go something like Impale Tornado Shot or something like that. And that's not really ticking the clear speed box for me, unfortunately. Maybe we'll come back to the champion later if I can't find anything else, but yeah, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. So Fortify is not an option really. Yeah, so that's not too good there. Next up is endurance charges. So generally the king of endurance charges when you're talking about clear speed in that context is going to be Slayer. Slayer gets free endurance charges for every frenzy charge he has. You can also couple this with the Badge of the Brotherhood to get basically massive amounts of power, frenzy, and endurance charges. And that build is going to be very good. In fact, that's where my teammates are going, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, pretty cool. But I'm not really sure this ticks my boxes though. It absolutely does have a lot of cool stuff to do with it. But it isn't exactly what I'm looking for. You can go Discharge, you can go Elemental Hit, and all sorts of stuff like that. And you basically use Replicable Farrel's Fur and plus charge rings and all sorts of stuff like that. But the skill that you would most likely be using is either Discharge, which has a cooldown on it, which, I don't really like cooldowns, and it doesn't really fit my play style. And then the other one is Elemental Hit. Elemental Hit, you have to aim it, And that is, it kind of does put a little bit of strain on how I like to play. Like, I don't like to aim skills. I've done that. It's why I played Tornado Shot for years. And I'm not a big fan of that one. So, you know, Slayer, while good, if I was going to go Slayer, I'd probably go like a Tornado Shot Slayer, like Trinity Tornado Shot Slayer. You know, maybe I'll look into that as well. But this also is very tanky due to the endurance charges. If you have like 10 endurance charge, that's 40% reduced physical damage taken. You get a bunch of elemental resist for free and stuff like that. And it is very, very good for taking some hits. But it's not massively tanky. It is tanky. It also has the Slayer Overleach, which is an incredible defensive mechanic. But yeah, I'm not sure if this is quite the direction I want to go. But we'll see. Maybe I will end up in that direction at the end. The last one here is elemental conversion here. So basically converting physical damage you take to elemental, and then also scaling maximum resistance and divine flesh using chaos small clusters. This is also a very powerful kind of defensive mechanic, and this is most likely the direction I'm looking at going in, but it is also one of the most difficult ways to build it, because it eats up cluster jewel slots, it eats a massive amount of skill points, you know, and it doesn't actually scale your damage at all, compared to the Slayer, who scales damage off endurance charges at the same time. So it is actually kind of difficult. On the upside though, it doesn't eat too many of your gear slots. It's just 1 or 2 mods here and there on your different pieces of gear, which does really help. Another thing about Slayer is you cannot use Impulsor, because you have to use Replica Pharaohs, or you have to come up with some other way to generate endurance charges, which can be a little bit difficult. I guess maybe you could use the Red Dream. Maybe I'll look into that at some point in the future. So the other thing you need is, of course, big clear speed. So this is generally going to come in the form of AoE, you know, like an AoE skill and either Impulsor or some chaining action. That's basically the only ways you can go. You either need to use Explode or in the form of Impulsor or Asenath, or you need to use Chain, which is, you know, in the form of brands, bows, or something along those lines. Or just have a massive AoE blast or something like that with Discharge. You know, those are all viable options. But, you know, I tried to build Blade Vortex with Impulsor, and man, that was a challenging task. Because the removal of Explode now requires you to convert from Fizz to Lightning, then to Cold, that makes it very hard to fit other stuff in the build. Because you're not only just you're sacrificing your rings, you're sacrificing flask slots, you're sacrificing mods on items. Blade Vortex has a really hard time, and then scaling that Fizz to then Lightning, you're not gaining any benefit on your Impulsor. In addition to that, Impulsor cannot crit. So scaling Impulsor is again even harder. To just have it chain the whole screen is going to be incredibly difficult. Unless you go something like Ellie Overload, or you go Assassin, or you use a Hatred Watcher's Eye, or something like that. That is kind of the direction you have to go in, which makes it fairly difficult. You know, achieving those screen-wide explosions is going to be the big task. And, you know, it used to be so damn free because physical explosion was, you know, physical. It scaled off headhunter, it scaled off everything. But now we have to go with Impulsor, which makes it so that, you know, it doesn't scale off everything, it can't crit, and you need to use gloves or a flask to make it prolife. Way harder. So yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to go in the Impulsor direction. I mean, I probably am because I have one. But, you know, maybe it is the chain meta once again. We're back to the chains. We'll have to see though. But yeah, that's the clear speed discussion. And then on top of that, you need to have good movement speed, because good movement speed allows you to move through the ultimatums at a higher rate. More ultimatums per hour is better. You know, and that's kind of the direction you want to go in. Of course, I might be overthinking this. Maybe they're not as hard as I make out to be. I just want to have a really, really good character for all content. And, you know, these are all the things I'm thinking of. So kind of like the things on the table for me, I know Slayer as either Ellie Hit or, you know, Tornado Shot. Maybe Discharge. I'm not sure about that. And then there's also, you know, Impulsor.build, which is going to either be, you know, brands, or it's going to be BV of some sort, or maybe even Winter Orb. That one, Winter Orb is definitely, I don't know about that one yet. That could be pretty rough. You could maybe make Winter Orb work, you know, maybe, I don't know. But Winter Orb, again, is one of those skills similar to BV. You need to scale so many different things, it makes it difficult to actually scale the Explode chest itself. And Impulsor actually requires more investment to scale than Explodey Chest. So you have to make it even better than you used to. So it's actually a really big challenge. And coming up with a build that ticks all these boxes is now my objective. You know, it's not about the currency right now because, you know, I have access to that. It's all about the build. So if you have any ideas, definitely let me know below. But it has to tick all the boxes and it needs to be really, really good at them. And that's kind of what I'm grappling with right now. I'm probably going to go stream and try and come up with an idea. The one that's probably leading the charge here is brands. I'll tell you why. So brands don't need to scale AoE because they chain naturally. They're actually a lightning skill by default in the form of storm brands. So you only need to convert once. And they already have probably the best scaling of damage in the game. They also don't need to be aimed. Oh, hallelujah. And they self-attach, and you just have to spam them all over your screen, which is a big deal. You know, it's a very, very big quality of life. You just spam, 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 and then you can also run around with brand recall, and everything dies around you. So I think it's highly likely I'm going to go brands, but the problem with brands is you can't make them tanky. So maybe I go brands, converting to cold with blast freeze. That may just be the play, and I try and get like 10 or 15k EHP on everything. You know, that may be a stretch. We'll see if it works. You really can't go too danky on brands though, but I'm not sure how it'll go. Maybe I'll just have to wait for some other people to bring up some ideas, but with everything said, that's kind of been my little video about builds. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.